welcome back to my channel. So I have had quite a few requests to do a Liberty tutorial video. So the first things I'm going to do are all going to be on the lead rope. There's different methods that a lot of people use, and some people do it all without a halter and lead rope on. I like to start the first few steps with the lead rope on. I just find that it kind of helps the horse get a lot less confused because they already know all the cues from doing work with the halter on, and it's just much more easy to transform it to Liberty work. The first thing that I'm going to work on is yielding the hindquarters. So what I'm looking for here is for him to cross over his back legs and keep his front left leg planted on the ground. So you can see here he's kind of just walking forward, and so I went and kind of corrected it with the lead rope a little bit. And for the right, I'm looking for him to plant his front right leg. The goal is to get them to do it softly to where you won't need the lead rope. He was taking quite a few forward steps here, so I corrected it with the lead rope and gave him a little wave with the whip. Now this guy kind of likes to take forward steps instead of giving in to the pressure of engaging his hindquarters, so I kind of had to get after him a little more than I usually would just to get him to really be engaging and moving his back legs over and crossing them. This is what you want your yielding the hindquarters to look like after you worked on everything. The next thing we're going to work on is the draw. To start off, you'll have your horse standing next to you against the fence. Lift up your whip and walk backwards and ask them to come with you. If they lag behind a little bit, you can give them a little tap with the whip. Once they get the idea of following you, you can ask them to come away from the fence. The goal is to get them to do this with a loose lead rope and follow you right when you lift up your whip and stop right when you stop. I'll mess around with having them draw towards me a tiny bit and then going to moving their hindquarters. It just kind of gets both their shoulders and their back end in control. Here I'm working on the draw, and then right here I asked him to stop, but he kept walking, so I kind of got onto him a bit and had him yield his hindquarters. The next thing we're going to work on is shoulder control, which will later on help with direction changes. Start off by standing next to your horse's shoulders and guiding them with their halter and asking them to move over their front legs. When they cross over, give them a reward. Once they get the idea of moving their front, you can step away and just guide them with the whip and make sure to give them a big reward when they do it. Now we'll work on our direction changes. You'll start off by asking them to move over their front and then go to move their back. You can repeat this over and over and make sure to do it on both sides. If your horse isn't being super responsive and not really wanting to move over its front legs, you can of course give them a little tap with the whip, but try to do it with the smallest cues you can and the least amount of pressure on the lead rope that you can. Another thing I'll work on for direction changes is just having my horse walk behind me and then asking them to switch sides that they are on. Over time, your horse will get more comfortable doing this, and you can eventually start asking them to stay up closer to you. I like to go from yielding their hindquarters into a direction change because it kind of starts out your circle motion. And again, the goal with this is to get them to do it with a really loose lead rope and make it look as easy as possible. Once your horse has all these steps down, you can go ahead and take off the lead rope. Now keep in mind that it can take several sessions and several days to get them to this point. The first thing we're going to work on without the lead rope is the draw. Start off by the fence and ask your horse to walk to you when you lift up your whips. Once they're really soft and responsive, you can go away from the fence and ask them to do it. You're looking for them to keep their head next to your shoulders and to walk off right away when you back up and lift up your whips. The next thing we're going to work on is yielding the hindquarters. Same thing as with the lead rope on, you're just looking for your horse to cross over their back legs and keep their front inside leg planted down. This guy kind of likes to walk forward a lot instead of actually moving his hindquarters. So what I do for him is I kind of step in front of his head and kind of get his attention again, and then go step back to his back legs and ask him to yield his hindquarters again. So you'll see me kind of step in front here and then kind of flick my whip and ask him to turn towards me. And make sure to work on this on both sides. This was much better than what he was doing before. The next thing we'll work on without the lead rope is direction changes. Same thing as with the lead rope on, just look for them to cross over their front at first and then go from moving their back to asking them to cross over their front and kind of just repeat that over and over. Here he was kind of walking a little far away, so a direction change is a great fix for that. When they're starting to wander off, you can just ask for a direction change and it will get their attention back to you. So you'll see here I'm kind of asking for half circle and half a hind quarter yield and kind of starting that circle motion and then going to ask for a direction change. The next thing we're going to work on is starting your Liberty circles. You'll go to asking them to yield their hindquarters, but then start facing a little more towards their belly and kind of push them out a little bit further and kind of start aiming a little more towards their shoulders. And if they get too distant, you can do a direction change to get them back to you. You'll just have to play around with your body cues and everything to figure out what your horse needs to feel comfortable doing a circle and not wanting to move its back end over too much and also not getting its shoulders stuck right up by you or too far away. Your body language is really important when it comes to Liberty and especially circles. So here she got a little close, so I just pushed her out with my arms. Here's a closer look. So instead of walking towards her, I just lifted up my arms and then brought them back to where your resting position would be. You can see here she got a little stuck, so I just raised up my hands again and that was plenty enough for her. And then I brought them back down closer to my body. So basically for circles, you'll just have to figure out what works best for your horse, but make sure that you're not letting them get too far away. If they get too far away, go back to yielding their hindquarters a bit more. If they get too close, just push out their shoulders a tiny bit with lifting up your hands. Here I was working on doing some direction changes while having her follow, and then I went into a circle, so I started aiming towards her hindquarters a bit and then pushing her shoulders out a little bit more to start getting that circle motion. Here she kind of came in a bit, and so I just lifted up my hands and kind of corrected her and started guiding her back into the circle. Here she was getting a little distracted, so I just clucked and kind of raised up my whips a little bit and kind of leaned towards her hind end to get her to yield and pay attention. If you feel like your horse is not yielding its hindquarters enough when you go from a circle to asking it to yield its hindquarters, you can go back to doing it with the lead rope to fix that. This is all for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope this will help you and your horse figure out how to do Liberty.